There is a need to return back to the state of pure consciousness that is silent, free of mental noise and a sense of identity. The mind-made image or interpretation of this character of my past, my future, my goals, my race, my family, my country. There is a need to return back to innocence, a pure state of primordial consciousness, where there is simplicity, creativity, allowing, intuition, compassion, harmony. It's about saying yes to existence, and there is nothing to look for outside of the container of this one divine moment. The ever-present now that expressed itself in innumerable forms. Everybody lives in a body of fiction. Each individual is trapped in an encapsulated sense of identity that constantly needs to be revived through resistance to the present moment where everything simultaneously exists as one whole. You have to take a hard look. The world is not so different from yourself, and you are not so different from the world. As a matter of fact, it is a mirror reflection of your states of consciousness. You have to face all those parts of yourself that you have refused. You have to face the shadow self that is holding you back from your own healing, your own awakening. It's not the politicians. It's not your government. It's not racism or capitalism or religion. It's not the Illuminati. Everything that I've mentioned are all simply byproducts or branches of this state of psychosis called the ego. This is the software program that causes fight or flight, resistance, conflict, tension, isolation, vanity. The human ego is the universal influencer at the root of all human suffering. All misery in the world arise due to a fictional skin boundary sense of me versus other. This veils up our undifferentiated, borderless ground of being. Any other wishful thinking and identifying the problem with something else outside or apart from the ego is just another defense mechanism. It is denial. All of the world's problems stem from the erroneous egoic program and this closed-loop system that remains hidden inside of all of us. We are all our own worst enemies. When our perceptions is distorted through the lenses of fear, the need for enemies, opposition, separateness, we no longer see life for what it is. We must shift our consciousness from the malware of our unobserved mind. This is not going to be a mass awakening. This is an individual paradigm shift in which we recognize that we are responsible because there is only the self. Be the change you want to see. Go to the root of the collective insanity so that you can transcend the madness. It is important to not identify with the problem. The ego is a mind virus that, if left unchecked, is a pathological self-consuming flame that keeps on feeding on conflict and negativity. It is a self-replenishing cycle that we refuel with our attention. Identifying the ego for what it is can be extremely difficult for the mind to accept. It also implies that the majority of your life has been coerced or manipulated into accepting a limited version of yourself, which is your self-image, a need for specialness, control, a sense of security, approval. This is the con. And becoming pawns to the ego's wishes, you can say, is the ultimate self-victimization. It is our perception of reality that creates our experience of it. Whether it brings us value, enemies, pleasure, passion, or victimhood. Realize that there is no independent objective reality out there. That is an illusion. It is all subjective within our minds. Take responsibility. The same way you'd have to take responsibility for everything that happens while you reenact and work out everyday problems and emotional issues in your dreams at night. They're not coming from outside of you. They are the dreamscape within consciousness. As above, so below. As within, so without. Your reality is a reflection of what is going on inside of you. You need to reestablish your reference to who you truly are at the fundamental level. To arrive to the conscious knowing of yourself as the uncaused, sovereign, and boundless I am. This can be achieved by going beyond your habitual thoughts and emotions, beyond your misperceptions and miscreations. There's something important you need to learn about your journey in order to reach a new level of knowing yourself. This is your inner work. When the ego's illusion of attachment and identification is abandoned, the ego can no longer be taken seriously or listened to, for it has no power over you. You withdrawn your energetic attention to it, and no longer are being unconscious through it. You are no longer subjugated to a constant psychological states of anxiety, fear, specialness, separateness, or a need for approval. You see the ego's game is beneath you now, and therefore not relevant or in any way threatening. Without an attachment or investment in our human identity, there would be no one to suffer. Everything would be simply as it is, perfect, whole, and complete. When you consciously choose to live in the present moment, you'll naturally experience divine grace and blissfulness of being. In other words, you choose to stay naturally as I am, not associated to I am this or that. Those are all erroneous labels and concepts that you have anchored to your pure presence. Anything that comes after your pure I am is not who you are. No adjective after I am can define you. These are simply mental concepts and limitations you have placed on yourself. This will only be a disservice to your divinity as the quantum field of pure potential. You are the still, formless dimension of spirit that is the background of all objects that appear in the forefront. You are all that is. Embrace it, face it. Everything is a manifestation or movement within you. And your presence is the taken out of the dark, shadowy aspect of ignorance. So there's no other need for indulging in escapism or the blame game. You take responsibility for your life and life experience, and you surrender to the understanding that all that you perceive, the light, the dark, the good, the bad, the pain and pleasure, are all manifestations within your psyche. And you give each of them the space to express themselves and release your control over them.